councillors, please push the raise hand button, which hopefully you'll manage to find, if you wish to speak. Normally at this point, I'd be saying that morning tea is scheduled for 10:30 a.m, but on this occasion, morning tea isn't provided. Well, other than your own, but I'll be most surprised if we're still going at 10:30 a.m. anyway, and we do need to bear in mind that we have another meeting at 11 o'clock. I would now like to ask Councillor Matthews to read the opening Karakia.
Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hiake ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei mauri ora.
Thank you very much. No apologies have been received for this morning's meeting. I call on members to declare any conflicts of interest they may have in relation to any items of the agenda. Okay. Confirmation of minutes. I move that the Regulatory Process Committee approves the minutes of the committee meeting held on the 4th of March 2020. Having been circulated, they be taken as read and confirmed as an accurate record of that meeting. Do I have a seconder, please? Okay, Deputy Mayor Free, thank you. Is there any debate? Okay. Just one comment. I would like to put in the request that suburb names always follow street names in the minutes and wherever else, because I do think it makes it easier for people who aren't familiar with other parts of town. So I have mentioned this before, but it would be helpful. So if that could be done, I would much appreciate it. Okay, I put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Please vote using your participant list.
That's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. We have no items that are not on the agenda. So at this stage, we go to public participation. I'd like to welcome along Daryl Bloomfield and Michael Jacques to speak to us on behalf of the upcoming, not this time, but probably our next meeting, a temporary road closure for the Wellington Marathon. So over to you, Michael or Daryl.
Yeah, hello, thank you for receiving us today. Yeah, Wellington Marathon was to be held July 5. We've just last week postponed it now to, it'll be one of two dates, August 30th or September the 13th. There was a notice before requiring road closures, etc. Obviously that'll have to be resubmitted now for our end date. That end date will be dependent mostly on Stadium, really, on them refixing their various fixtures. There'll be a lot of postponements, and they've indicated to us one of those 2 days should be acceptable, and we should know in the next few weeks, in which case we'll get a submission to you straight away. It's a big event. Many of the councillors would have seen, would have experienced it probably. The up to 5,000 people, typically last few years around 4,000 people have participated in it. It's a major winter fixture for the city. Brings in approximately 1,000 visitors plus their families to the city. So during that winter period, it's an important visitor thing economically. Yeah, let alone the social implications, for the city itself. We do have ongoing concerns from the likes of Oriental Bay Residents Committee, etc., which we address every year. We do a pretty good job of keeping the event clean and getting out of their way before lunchtime. I don't think there's been any objections to what was to be July 5. And like I say, we work with them every year and do so pretty well. Our only concern from the last couple of years has been our resident notices. We send resident notices to literally every suburb that's affected by the event. telling them what's going on. And we have some concerns about the delivery we've been using the last couple of years. So we're going to change that and try to get a more guaranteed delivery for this year. But right now we're just focusing on finding out when the event might be. Hopefully, we're hoping August 30th, but yeah, it remains to be seen.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I can't see any hands up, but I have a couple of questions. Have you finished your presentation before I launch into that?
No, fine.
Okay, when you say you send notices, what kind of number of notices, and these are put into, they delivered into letterboxes, is that what you're saying?
Correct. So it's a letter to residents, delivered by a bulk mailing house, as it were. And from memory, there's about 2,500 going out, to the main suburbs affected, being anything on, Oriental Bay, Roseneath, Hataitai, and then on top of that, we visit businesses that are on the route as well.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Michael. I just wondered, you did mention the Oriental Bay Residents Association. What are typically some of their main concerns?
Essentially, the road closure. They don't see it as necessary. And I mean, usually they're pretty good. We get the odd particularly grumpy one. A couple of years ago, we almost involved police because he was more than grumpy. But yeah, typically the road closure, them wanting to get out to do, whatever they would normally do on a Sunday, which is, quite understandable. And we have quite good controls in regards to little windows where we can let people go if they're sort of, waiting, et cetera, and we give everybody a phone number they can contact if they urgently have to get out, such as to the airport or something like that. And obviously we allow for, for emergency services, to be moving around, et cetera. We use Wellington Free ourselves for the event so that they can literally attend any public emergency if they had to on the course without it actually being an extra element to letting something in, so it's mostly a matter of the communication, I think. The more people we can sort of make sure we get these letters to, the less likelihood we're going to get of any discord. It's the old story, nobody likes going down their street and finding they can't move on their own street, regardless of whether they've had a message or not. So, the reality is that discord is always going to be there in some measure. The point is trying to keep it to the lowest possible measure.
Okay, no, that sounds very reasonable. Thank you.
Another question from me, Michael, and that is, would you be waiting until we no longer have physical distancing or social distancing rules before the marathon was run, or if not, how would you handle that aspect?
Well, this is the issue. So the reason we've postponed is because we had no guarantees of what the mass gathering rules would be by July 5. So when we went to level 2 last week, until last Thursday, the level 2 standard was mass gatherings up to 500 people, but they changed that and brought it back to 10, and they're going to gradually release that, as it were, and through what sounds like an extended level 2, perhaps up to four weeks maybe. So we, just based on government's been conservative every step in their levels, conservative even within that level. And so we sort of felt that probably by July 5, the country might be up to mass gatherings of 500, which we couldn't hold the event on. It's just not economical. And then, so hopefully sort of by end of August, things might be out to something normal. We need literally 2,000 people for the event to even break even. And so unless we could have a mass gathering of more than 2,000 people, we wouldn't be holding the event. It would not be financially viable.
Right, thank you. Councillor Wolf.
Yeah, Michael, just while I've got you, could you just explain to the other councillors the charitable side of things that you're involved in with this marathon? Because it's not just the marathon itself. I know from having attended the last 2 years that you contribute to charities also. I think it was Heart Kids. Is that your?
Yeah, well, the event, the The official charity for the event is the Heart Foundation, New Zealand Heart Foundation, through various means, from them providing volunteers to, us providing a means for them to get donations from participants, etc., etc. Participants actually running the event to raise money for the Heart Foundation and any other charities that they, they might have individual involvements with. But yeah, so the Heart Foundation raises something in excess of $20,000 annually from the event in total, probably. They would be able to tell you more about that. But on top of that, the event, benefits the community, quite hugely, really. Like, we require something like over 200 volunteers for the event. We source them from about approximately half a dozen different community groups, probably 8 different community groups, and they benefit more than $20,000 just through donations to their groups for their services. That's for things like marshalling and drink stations and helping out at the start finish area and things like that. So it's a big event, full stop. It's 4,000 odd participants, but on top of that, it involves more than 200 people just to make it tick. So, and that's one of our other big concerns really with the event, is that, given the circumstances we all live in, the community groups may be slightly reticent now to want to actually go out there and work in the community quite so soon after such a lockdown, as it were. Yeah, so that remains to be seen as well. At the moment, they've all indicated that they'd be keen for August 30th, but when they actually go out to their people within their groups, they may find that people are less willing than normal to come out for, I don't know, 6 months or even a year. I'm sort of half expecting that, but we'll tackle that when it comes.
Michael, just explain to my colleagues about the fact that it's not just a marathon. There's all sorts of different categories, aren't there?
Yeah. So it's the Wellington Marathon, but like most marathons around the world, it has so you've got the full 42-kilometre marathon, then you've got a half marathon, 21.1k, and a 10-kilometre event, and then we have what we call the Kids Magic Mile, which involves primary school children, which is quite a cool little event by itself.
It is a cool little event, Michael. Don't understate it. You're being very modest.
Yeah, well, it's sort of from an event perspective, I've sort of been involved in running and cycling events since I was about 7, so it's essentially all I know, and I get a bit of a kick out of seeing other kids coming through like I did. So it's just something. It's a
great event. Thank you for what you do. Like, I've thanked you personally in the past, but I think it's nice to do that in a more formal way with my council colleagues and out on a YouTube stream as well. It's probably one of the best run events in the city. It does our city proud. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I would echo that. I've run the 10K a few times, and fantastic event to participate. I'm not at my race training speed at the moment, but I have to get out there. But yeah, really great event to participate in. So thank you for all the work that goes into
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think there are any more questions, so appreciate both you, Michael, and Daryl coming along, speaking to us, and certainly hope that by the end of August or mid-September we have returned to some sense of normality and you can run the event with a good number of people participating. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Right, you're welcome to stay or you're welcome to go, but if you perhaps turn off your pictures shortly, thank you. Okay, we're moving on to general business. We only have one item of general business, that's the traffic resolution. So I'd like to welcome along Siobhan Proctor, the Manager of Transport and Infrastructure, and I think Charles Kingsford, Principal Transportation Engineer. In a moment, I will hand over to Councillor Condi to introduce the report, but once councillors have had the opportunity to ask any questions of officers. So if Siobhan and Charles would like to make their presence seen, welcome to our meeting. And we have a question from Councillor Matthews.
Kia ora. Just wanted to, I'm interested in whether the participation, the consultation phase for these resolutions was before we went into lockdown, and if it wasn't, do we notice any impact on people wanting to have their say on these changes?
Yep, so these consultations closed on the 16th of March, so it's before we went into lockdown. So yeah, so no impact because of, yeah, it happened before lockdown. So I think this this meeting was deferred due to lockdown, the original one.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will ask, I was going to ask the question through Councillor, through the Deputy Mayor, but perhaps, well, yeah, in regard to the Broadway Miramar issue, that was the one that attracted twice as many objections as any other, well, only two, but the others, there were a small number of other ones that attracted one objection, and it's not surprising that nothing's ever going to go through plain sailing necessarily. Well, anyway, my question is, are you reasonably comfortable that the Broadway Miramar issue was sorted? I see the Residents Association raised an objection.
Yes. Yeah. So we modified that as a result of the consultation, which actually meant that we extended the broken yellows compared to the original proposal. But yeah, we're satisfied that this is a good solution from a safety perspective more than anything else.
Thank you. Any more questions at this point? Otherwise, I will hand over to Councillor Conley to introduce the report.
Thank you, Councillor Sparrow. Thank you, Siobhan. Okay, so we've got a number of traffic resolutions to pass here. As Councillor Sparrow has already said, we didn't have anything particularly controversial on this set of traffic resolutions. The 2 objections was the highest that we had. I'll just quickly talk you through a couple of the objections. The Clyde Street traffic resolution is about putting in some pickup spaces for a school in Island Bay. And the main objection there was just that we should be encouraging people to be walking and cycling to school, not just doing school gate pickup. So that's obviously something that our officers are working on in our behavioural transport team, working on that support. We've talked a bit about Broadway, and Deputy Mayor Free, I hope that you'll speak to the motion when it comes up, so you can give us a bit more of the view of the Residents Association there. We had an objection to Totara Road, which was actually about asking us to extend the broken yellows to further around. So officers are going to look into that. Of course, you'll all understand that we can't broaden a proposal after we've taken it out to consultation. We can only make it smaller. So anything where we're being asked to extend something has to be a new proposal. So officers will be looking into that. I always find it interesting how many times when we say, oh, we're going to put in some broken yellow lines around this blind corner, then the neighbours say, oh, well, we have another blind corner just up the road. So that will turn into a new traffic resolution after officers have done some investigation there. The Wigan Street change the accessible parking, that objection has been resolved after the officers were able to speak to the woman involved. There was just a bit of confusion about exactly what was being planned there. So once it was all cleared up, that's all been resolved, which is great news. So I will, happy to move these traffic resolutions and open it for debate. Or I need a seconder. Can I have a seconder for the paper, please? Thank you, Councillor Sparrow.
So yeah. So I'll put my hand up there.
Yeah, we're now open for debate. Deputy Mayor Free.
Okay, thank you very much. Look, we always expect, I think, 1 or 2 objections. Sometimes we have people submitting in support too. So I noted that this is probably pretty typical. We had some people who did object to what the officers have proposed. In the case of Broadway, I did take the liberty of ringing the Robin Baldaran, the president of the Residents Association, just to talk with her about her concerns. I don't think they were necessarily very strong concerns. She was just raising the issue that if we are putting in extra restrictions around this driveway, would that set a precedent all the way down Broadway? And I think that it's fairly clear that this driveway is quite close to the intersection, that there are some visibility issues that these yellow lines are addressing, and that you know, there's several schools in the proximity. It's quite a confusing intersection at times. So there is a very good argument to have good visibility out of all the driveways that are close to that intersection. She was quite happy with that explanation. The other objection was from a resident who raised the issue about car parking. And I think we'll always get that kind of objection raised. But in actual fact, there is quite good parking down Broadway. Most residences actually have driveways. Plus, at the moment, there's very little pressure from airport parking. So I think right now, there certainly isn't a case to be concerned on that score. So I'm happy to support that resolution, and in fact, all of the resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And while I think of it, welcome to Mayor Foster to the meeting. Any more debate? Okay, on that basis, the motion has been put and moved and seconded. Please vote using your participant list.
Sorry, Malcolm, I'm not quite sure what participant list means, so I'll just go yes.
Right.
It's unanimous then.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Last page. Okay, we shall ask Deputy Mayor Free to read the closing Karakia. When you unmute yourself.
Okay. Anuhia, anuhia, anuhia ki te uru tapunui. Kia wātia, kia mama, ki ngākau, ki tinana, ki wairua, i te ara tā katu. Koe rā e rongo, whakairia aku ki rongo. Kia wātia, ai rā, kua wātia. Thank you, everybody.